McDonough, a longtime parishioner at Immaculate Heart of Harry Parish in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Thanks for speaking with us today.
That's my pleasure.
What year did you join Immaculate Heart?
Well, my family and I moved here from Toledo, Ohio in January of 1974, and it's been quite a while. We were very pleased to find a great parish that had a lot of activities going on, and we're very pleased to be here.
Thank you.
Please describe your family at the time.
Well, my family was my wife and I and 4 children. When we came here, we had 2 children in grade school, one in 6th grade and one in 3rd grade. And we had 2 other children in high school, and they were both at Catholic Central. So ultimately, all 4 of them graduated from Catholic Central.
What was the name of your spouse?
My spouse's name is Donna, D-O-N-N-A.
Okay.
Who was the pastor and who joined? And could you also discuss your relationship with him and give your impressions of his role in our parish?
Well, it's interesting that you would bring that up. I remember the pastor very well. His name was Father Bill Lawless, Oblate of Mary Immaculate, and the Oblates at that time staffed this entire parish. Perhaps you know that. Father Bill Lawless was a very well-respected gentleman, a manager of the parish, a spiritual helper to the parishioners. He was here only a short time after we joined the parish, so I didn't get to know him personally very well, although I had a number of opportunities to talk with him. One thing that I do remember is when he was transferred from the parish, there was a big party thrown for him, and we attended that, even though we didn't know him that well. It was a mass and a social gathering following the mass, and what I remember so clearly was the number of people. The church was packed to every seat was taken from the mass celebrating his pastorship and now his departure. And it was just amazing to see that happen with hundreds of people in there. It gives an indication of how well liked and how much respected Father Bill Lawless was. Very well.
What do you remember about him the most?
How do I remember him the most?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, one example that I had interacting with him was in my first few weeks in the parish was I noticed the Sunday Bulletin kept an article about elections for the school board. And having come from a parish that had a big school, and I had been on the school board, week after week here at Immaculate Heart, I saw this ad in the bulletin saying, if you want to be on the school board. So I went to Father Lawless after Mass one Sunday and said, yeah, I'll be on the school board. Put me on the list. And he said, okay, fine. And I didn't know anyone, believe me. I was brand new. But they had an election. Of course, I didn't win it. I'm not sure I got any votes at all. People must have said, who's this guy? But at least I was running on the slate, and that's all because of Father Bill Lawless, who put my name in contention.
Thank you.
What other priests do you have memories of?
Oh boy. Following Father Lawless, I believe, was Father Jerry Flater, well-renowned individual. Father Flater had a unique ability to remember names. And by that I mean that he has come back to Immaculate Heart on occasion just to visit. After he'd been gone for 20 years. And I have seen him walk into the church and walk up to someone and say, "Hello, Peter, it's good to see you again." He remembers the names. He'll wrap his arm around your shoulder and speak to you, and not just to one person. Time after time, I have seen that happen, and he's been gone for 20-some years. So I don't know, he hasn't been back here recently, but I do remember Father Flater, one, for his memory, and secondly, I remember him for the spiritual direction, the spiritual enrichment that he gave to the parish. I thought he was a very spiritual man, very much so. I believe it was Father Flavin who came after Father Flater. My recollection of Father Flavin is that he was a skier, or he loved to ski. And on one occasion, I and some friends were headed up to northern Michigan to go skiing. And my friends got there a day early because I couldn't go on that earlier day. When it was time for me to go, I thought, I wonder if Father Flavin would be interested. So I called him. I said, you want to go skiing with me and the other guys? He said, sure. So he hopped in the car with me, and we drove up north with 2 or 3 other IHM members, and we skied for 2 or 3 days and came back. A lot of fun. He was a great fellow, very friendly. Obviously, a lot of the pastors, Father Hollywood was here, Father Sudlick has recently been here. I remember Father McCann, who was a tennis player, loved to play tennis. He was a little man. And by that I mean he was 5'3" or 4", something like that, and of slight build. And one time I agreed to go with him and try to play tennis. Now let me tell you, this older man, who was of very small stature, outplayed me terribly. I mean, he just whipped me. He was great as a tennis player.
Could you tell about the atmosphere of Immaculate Heart of Mary? And do you remember any principals and or teachers who made impressions on your children?
The atmosphere here has always been very positive, I think so, throughout the entire parish. That's in the school as well as in the church. That's one of the things that has always impressed me and made me value my membership here in the parish. School, I don't have that much connection with. School's an important part of the parish.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah,
that.
I know.
Did you get involved with any activities or groups during your time here?
Yes. Over 40 years, I've been in a number of activities. Trying to think back, one of the first activities was I was asked by Jim Kane, a member of the parish, if I wanted to become a lector. Jim was a scheduler of all the lectors, so he was constantly looking for people who would be willing to do that. And so I took him up on it, and I've been lecturing for years as scheduled. Other than that, I joined a Bible study group way back in early 1992. I joined a Bible study group, and that group is still going today. As a matter of fact, I came from there to this meeting this morning. We meet on Friday mornings at 6:45, and the group is still healthy and working well. The parish used to hold bingo in this room I think it was once a month, and there were different groups of men who worked the bingo games, and I remember doing that. It was a time when so many people smoked cigarettes like they don't do today, and so this room would be clouded with cigarette smoke, and I'd go home with a headache. But we did have bingo regularly until I believe it was Father Len Sudlick who decided that the bingo games were not being attended by parishioners, but by a lot of inner city people coming here, and it was questionable whether that was the thing we ought to be doing. And so he stopped it, and I think rightly so. We get along fine without it.
did you coach or do hire?
Pardon me?
Did you do hire or coach sports?
No, I did not. I did not coach sports.
Okay.
I believe in sports, I support sports, but I was not a coach.
Okay.
So, excuse me.
Well, I was going to say we were talking about other activities, if you're interested in that. I served on the pastoral council. Interestingly, I actually served 2.5 terms. And how that came to be was I served 1 term, and then later on, someone resigned from the council, and they asked me to fill the last half of that person's term, which I did, and then went on for a term of myself. So I ended up with 2.5 terms, which is quite a while in the pastoral council. But that's been years ago, quite some. Not with this. Not in recent years. Not under Father Troy. It was under a previous pastor.
Okay. Could you tell about specific memories you have about new things at IHMs, such as new buildings or programs or new ways of doing things?
The ways of doing things?
Yeah.
Well, it's hard to be specific about them because there are so many activities going on in the parish in past years as there is today. There are quite a few different committees, organizations within the parish. I hesitate to even count the number of them. And they all have their specific purposes, and the way that they do things is unique to their own organizations. It all seems to work well. As I said, my participation now, currently, is only with the Bible study program. I don't belong to any ongoing organization other than that right now. Oh, Eucharistic Adoration, that's another one. And that's ongoing, so I guess I should include that. You mentioned earlier my wife's name. Of course, she's an active member of this parish as well. And she has been a Eucharistic minister for over 30 years. That's quite a spell. And she's also done a lot of other work in the parish. She sings in the Resurrection Choir and has done so for quite a few years. She was chairperson of the funeral buffet. She has worked for the library, for the school. I can't even count the number of activities that she's been involved in, and still is in many of them.
Is there anything different at IHM right now that you miss about the old days?
That I would what?
Is there anything different at IHM now that you
Miss about?
miss about the old days?
I don't miss the old days. No, I like to live in the present. I guess that's a trite saying, but it's true. I appreciated and lived in the older days. And I appreciate and live in the present days. I can't say that it was better then. It's always better now and going to be even better in the future. That's the way I like to look at it.
Okay. Thank you. Have the priests and or parishioners helped you through tough times?
Well, perhaps I could best answer that saying yes and no. I have had no severe tough time, quote unquote, that required intervention by the priest. But always the priests are here, and the pastors and the associate pastors have been here, and every one of them has been open and available to talking when you want to talk. Not that I had that much to need help with, but it's nice to know it's always there.
So, how was your life enriched by being a member at IHM?
Well, it's certainly been enriched, I'll say that, but it's probably somewhat difficult to identify exactly how. Spiritually, it would be the main way. I think that each parish has a definite personality, a definite culture, if you will, and this parish, it seems to me, has a very high spiritual personality, a very high spiritual culture. And to that extent, when you're part of the parish, you are automatically enriched spiritually, and that's very valuable, very valuable.
Lauren?
Is there anything else you would like to say about IHM Parish?
Well, we've pretty much covered everything, haven't we? I like it here. I love it here. It's home. And we've been here for 40 years, and that pretty much says it all. I wouldn't have been here 40 years if we didn't like it. We didn't feel a part of it. It's a parish family. And it's nice to be a part of that.
Thank you.
Thank you for speaking with us today. On behalf of the parish, thank you for all you have done to Immaculate Heart of Mary, for making it such a wonderful parish today.
You're very welcome. It's been a pleasure talking with you.